airborne, 101st or
Oh. Well, this is a fairly painless process. I'll just ask you some questions, and you
Sure.
basically just tell us your story. And,
Okay.
first, I'm going to make a statement for the camera to tell us who you are, who we are, and then
Okay.
we'll go from there. Do you have any questions?
Not right now.
Okay, all right. We're interviewing Mr. Cecil J. Karley at Culver Road Armory, Rochester, New York. It is November 21st, 2001. Michael Akey, interviewer. Wayne Clark, videographer. Mr. Karley, where were you born?
In Rochester, New York.
No? You're a native?
Yes. On the west side.
Okay. You went to school in Rochester?
Yes. Madison High School.
Oh, okay. And when did you graduate from Madison High?
In 42.
42.
Yes.
Do you remember where you were when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
I was in school.
You were in school?
We were in school. Pearl Harbor started in 41, and I was still in school. We graduated in June of 42.
Okay. And you knew you were going to go into the service?
Yes, in fact, I worked a while at the Ritter Company making dental chairs. I was a machinist.
Okay.
And then I signed up for the Air Corps. By the time the papers got back, I was drafted.
Ah.
And, well, first I was, what do you call it, held back from my work.
You had a work deferment?
Yeah, deferment, because I was working on airplane parts.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't, so I signed up for the Air Corps, because all my buddies had already been drafted. And I signed up for the Air Corps. Before you know it, I get my draft papers. I ended up at Fort Niagara in Buffalo or whatever. 2 weeks later, my sister sends me a letter, says the Air Force accepted you. And here I was in the cavalry ready to go to Georgia.
Oh, dear. Where'd you do your basic training?
In Augusta, Georgia.
What was that like?
Camp Gordon, Georgia. It was great. We lived in tile barracks where the other outfits were in wooden barracks, double story. And we had the one ranch type tile barracks. They were cooler.
Oh.
Air conditioning was not available in those days.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So how was basic training for you?
Very good. In school I was a jock. I played baseball, soccer, and
You're in pretty good shape.
yeah. And 19 years old. Basic training was a piece of cake, really, and I loved it. You know, we were all young guys, and about 6 of us from Rochester were in the same outfit. A few that I graduated from school at Madison High School, where I ended up in the same outfit.
That
It was
must make
great.
you feel good.
Yes.
And after basic, where did you go?
After basic, we went to, well, we had maneuvers in Tennessee.
What were they like?
Very good. Interesting. It was a prelude to combat.
Uh-huh.
In fact, they had empires there, and when you did the wrong thing, they'd wave a flag, either you were killed or captured. Planes were up in the air that you didn't see, and they said you were bombed. And you had to spend the rest of the tactic days, 3-day tactics or 4, in a wired area, and you had to live the way you were caught, without blankets. Lucky we had jeeps and that, but of course they take away the jeeps, and you're put in a fenced area, and you have to survive the best you can till the tactic is over.
What unit were you a part of at that point?
We trained together, 3rd Cavalry Reconnaissance,
Okay.
Mechanized Recon. There were 2 squadrons, 3rd and 43rd. 1,600 men. I was in the 43rd Squadron.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went overseas together. We all trained together, and we had to fire every gun, drive every vehicle, take code.
Now, what kind of vehicles did your unit have?
We had everything from jeeps to tanks.
Light tanks?
Yes. We were strictly fast-moving, hard-hitting shock troops.
Uh-huh.
Every vehicle had a machine gun on, whether it's a truck or not. We had troops from A to F troop, A to E, A, B, C, no D troop because what sounded like E, so there was no D troop. A, B, C, E Company and F Company, those were tank troops.
Okay.
Then we had headquarters in A1. A1 is Army Intelligence.
Okay.
They were in headquarters.
Now, what were you specifically trained to do?
Recon.
All right, but what was your job?
I was a machine gunner on a point jeep and an armored car gunner.
Oh.
I was alternate, but mostly I ended up in point jeep. And when I was on there so long, they'd put me in the armored car.
Mm-hmm. Now, you went over to Europe when?
We were there at the end of July, I'd say about the 1st of August approximately.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact date. It was at Utah Beach, not at Omaha.
What was Utah Beach like at that point?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't land there, but I know it was rough on the invasion forces because there were cliffs there and barriers. The Germans were waiting for them. It was a massacre.
What was it like when you landed?
It was a beautiful day. Never got our feet wet. We drove off the LSTs or whatever. The water was only up to hubcaps, and drove right on the beach and to our point of destination.
Okay. Now, were you part of Patton's army at that point?
Yes, Patton's Third Army.
Okay. Excuse me. Where was your? Where did you go first once you landed?
We landed near St. Lo.
Okay.
And the first thing, when we assembled to get we worked in teams. Say about 6 jeeps and an armored car. We worked in teams and then we had a map to scout or recon a certain area. Every team had a certain area to cover. And then we would assemble together at a certain point, depending on the situation or the trouble we ran into. Now, when we assembled and got ready to start, there was a nice day. We were on the outskirts of St. Lo. I saw 3 trucks come one after another. And I said, what's the Army doing with logs? From a distance, I couldn't see it. I thought there were logs. I said, what's the Army doing with logs? My sergeant handed me the binoculars, and they were all dead GIs, which looked like logs somewhere in body bags somewhere from the big battles up ahead.
So that was your first...
Oh, my first sight. We didn't even start. We were just getting assembled to... And man, I was pumped up. I was thinking of the parents of all these boys, and I was pumped, I'm telling you. I felt I had to make up for them. I felt they had to pay for that. If I'm going to go down, I felt they're going to pay before I go down. That's a feeling, and I think most of our guys had that feeling. We were well trained, and it was really.
Now, armored reconnaissance. What is your job? What is your mission usually?
Mission is to seek and find out information, destroy shock troops. We were heavily armed. Like I said, every Jeep had a machine gun on, armored car, and our job was to seek and destroy, shock, find out information, find out how strong they were. If we couldn't take them ourselves, we would. A lot of times we would take that town ourselves, not just our team, but we'd assemble and take over the town ourselves. If we didn't, we'd shoot up the enemy, find out how strong, report back, then our other tanks would come up from another outfit, our medium heavies or whatnot, and then we would support them on the flank, keep them from, then we would go on ahead maybe, shock the Germans again. That was our job, fast-moving shock troops.
Now, your Jeeps, what, three-man crew?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of firepower on the Jeep?
We had 30s, 30 calibers on most of the Jeep. One might have had a 50. Then we had an armored car. The 50 was a backup in case, and then the armored car would back that up.
Do you remember your first combat mission?
Yes.
Where was that?
The first combat mission was in the field, like we were approaching a wide area of fields, and there were German trucks way out in the distance on another area, and we saw them, we started firing, you know, naturally, and we were getting fired. A lot of times, the element of surprise was in our favor. They were there 5 years. They might have been complacent. They never were informed properly. We caught prisoners halfway through France that were college kids. You know, they were soldiers, but horn-rimmed glasses and everything. And they were mad because they were never informed. They said the Americans weren't on the beach yet. And here we, you know, they were just average college kids, but they were disturbed about the fact that they were not informed. You know, they were lied to. And a lot of times the French people would inform us about positions in a field or a town, or so we had the element of surprise. A lot of times we didn't. From woods, they'd have pockets of Germans in the woods sniping at us or shooting at us. So we would stop with all our firepower, and all the guns would be shooting. Now you figure all that firepower plus an armored car, and they'd use canister. You know, a canister is like a shotgun shell with little, probably the size of a .38 caliber BBs in it, and those guys would come out, you know, comrade, you know, not always, but.
What was your biggest concern when you were out on patrol?
Biggest concern was getting hit by heavy stuff, like an 88. That gun could shoot straight down the road, 5 feet off the ground with no trajectory, and that was a concern. We didn't worry about getting killed so much, and the fact that we're busy doing our job, but I didn't want to get killed. I wanted to live to the end of the war, see the results. I wanted to see Hitler get his just desserts. That was my attitude. If you have to have an attitude, if you're going to be depressed or scared, you're not no good. We weren't taught that way. You're not good to the army if you're dead. So they trained you to keep alive. That was the training.
Do you worry about mines very often?
Yeah. Only on night patrol, mainly. That's where I got hit. I got one all the way through France, got to Luxembourg. We took over the Berg, Luxembourg. In fact, our outfit liberated Luxembourg. In fact, I was on night patrol. We got caught in a minefield. 3 mines went off. One That was at night now. It's dark. In November, it started to sprinkle. And somebody had a tripwire. There was 8 men. The lieutenant and another corporal were in the front. I was with my squad in back, because I told them there were mines in that field. We weren't supposed to go in there, but the orders were orders. And so one mine went off in the front. Nobody got hurt but concussion, because it was off to the side. They were on tripwires. And a lieutenant called me up. I was in my squad in back. I was a sergeant for 30 days. That's why I said my squad. I was off the gun then. I was the guy with the map. And so I go up to the lieutenant, and he asked me, what'll we do? I said, we got this far. We do an about face, retrace our steps, and try to get out. We got that far. It was only make common sense. No use freezing. You couldn't lay down. You didn't dare. I figured you'd lay on the mine or something. So what happens? I'm walking back. I got halfway. We might have been on the edge of that minefield. I got halfway back to my squad on the edge of my troop there. I hit a tripwire. It's hard to believe. Did you ever throw a firecracker and it fizzle? And then you don't know if it's going to blow, it stop, fizzle again? That's what the mine did. It blew up from maybe from here to the end of that pool table. I didn't dare lay down. I had that much time. I was going to lay down with my back toward it. Now, it sounded like a lot of time. And I didn't want to lay down. In my back, I thought, Christ, I'm going to... I didn't know. I wasn't sure. So what I did, split second thinking, because that thing would fizzle, go out and fizzle. I wasn't sure it was going to go out. So what I did, I got on one knee, had an M1 with a rifle grenade on. Being a sergeant, I carried bandoliers with rifle bullets in, so in case we ran into trouble, we wouldn't be short, you know. I got on one knee, turned the gun sideways, my helmet, pulled it right down over my face and I huddled behind that gun, got on one knee as small as I could, and that thing went off. Now we're talking seconds, maybe 5, maybe, I don't know, 6 seconds. I had time to do that. And I crouched down real small behind the sideways of my M1. The rifle grenade was on there. It wouldn't went off because I put the pin back in. You know, there's a pin, and it wouldn't go off, and it has to hit direct. And that thing went off, and I felt a concussion, and I got up. I knew I was hit, but it didn't seem like it. I had 3 hits here. I didn't realize. I felt a little blood trickle, but I thought maybe I was grazed. You didn't feel nothing at all. I got back. I started to proceed back to my position, and I hit a mine again. Blew me off my feet. I ended up on my back. My gun went forward. My helmet went up in the air. I heard it hit the ground, but that's the last I heard. I'd wake up once in a while because it was rain trickling in my face. And everybody was frozen. They lay down. And they heard me crying, swearing a little bit. I was swearing because I told them we shouldn't be in there. The reason I didn't want to go in that field, because we occupied the same outpost the Germans do. And I saw these little detonators in it. The military mine works the same. You'll occupy an outpost, you find the Germans were there also. you know, because we're way up in Luxembourg. Well, anyway, it blew me off my feet. I ended up on my back. Gun went forward, helm, and that's the last I knew. I was crying and swearing. The lieutenant and the corporal up front got killed. I don't know if it was from mine or because then they started laying mortars in on us because they heard the commotion evidently. And I don't know how they got, I was told this after, that the lieutenant and the corporal up front got killed. And the guy next to me, John Hawkins, he was next to me. I was walking back, and he got blown up with me. He had a broken shoulder and arm, shrapnel. And I ended up on my back, like I said. And we laid there. One of the guys cracked up. And he said he ended up in the hospital after. But nobody got us out. But there was one sergeant who came in and got us out. Carried me out, put me on the Jeep, got us back, got the wounded guys back. His name was Sergeant Kennedy, believe it or not, sound like president, and they made him a field commission. He came in that field, got the rest of them out, carried me out and Sean, and we ended up in a hospital, well, a French building. I didn't remember things. I was on and off. John would come to me and I said, what happened? He'd say, remember we did this, we were in. It seemed like I remember for that minute. Yeah. As soon as he left, my mind was, I ended up with 2 broken legs, femurs, fractured knees, hip and pelvis. I ended up on body cast for about 4 months, 3.5, and I come back in the States. I got hit November 7th, 1944, and I came back, I think, of course you're shipped by ambulance convoy later on when I was wrapped up like a mummy, you know, they do the initial parts in France. Then we were shipped to southern France, where there's all tents and all guys from all different outfits, wounded guys, and very quiet. And I can understand that now because your body is in such shock. Any little noise, oh, it trips you. And I couldn't even drink water. I was so, you know, I had 8 pieces in this leg and 1 big one here and 1 in my hip and my butt. Believe it or not, do I dare say this? Even my penis was hit just on the tip. I wasn't circumcised when I went in there, but after I got wounded, I got circumcised. It wasn't big, just about the size of a jagged baby. It just hit on. But good thing maybe the skin was, I might have been right. So that's why I don't know whether to tell you on
That's fine.
But
let's back up a little bit.
Okay. And then we were shipped over the channel in C-47s to Scotland, England, and back home to Boston.
Now, you also spent time in an M8 armored car?
Yes.
What was that like?
It was great. I was a good gunner, you know, and it was nice because when you use the cannon and shoot, well, first we'd get sniped at from woods or whatever, or a gun position behind barns and whatnot. And hey, they didn't get you with their first shot, it was their last. Let's put it that way. I mean, our attitude was take your best shot, 'cause it'll be your last, you know. And that's the way it seemed to be on and off. It wasn't that much, but enough to eliminate problems.
Now, how many crewmen in an M8?
4.
4.
There was a driver, radio man, gunner, and commander.
Okay.
Now, in those days, radios were a square box about a foot square. In receiving and sending. 2 boxes right next. In fact, I was a gunner, so it'd be right there between me and the driver. You know, and
was it an electrical turret or a manual turret?
a manual.
It was manual.
Had to wind it, and there were clips all around. It was white inside. Well, you see it in there. And the shell slipped in the slots. Yeah.
Was it a comfortable vehicle? Or?
Yes, it was comfortable. And I used to brag about the telescope was made in Rochester from Bausch and Lomb. It was that long, green, and you slipped it through. It was coordinated with the 37 millimeter cannon, and there was a machine gun alongside that, coordinated with and zeroed in the same idea. You can either fire it by hand or by foot pedal.
Okay. So you fired both at the same time?
Well, not necessarily. The commander might have fired at the same time, but he had give me a distance, you know, with the binocs. They had graduations on, we had graduations on the telescope. So we'd say, target 1,300 yards or whatever, and you'd raise and elevate according to the graduations and let them go.
And did you run across the German vehicles that you couldn't take on?
No, we avoided the big stuff, the 88s, because then we would call our medium or heavy tank outfits. Well, we'd report our outfit, which was, our base was, headquarters was a mile away, maybe mile and a half. See, according to each town we took, they'd establish a base. Then we'd go on, we'd get a new map, and we'd go on our recon visit. And when the guy, we didn't have medics with us, because they'd get killed. So when the guy got wounded, we'd patch him up quick, depending on the situation, and then call the medics, or call the medics and then go on ahead. Patch them up quick. They'd come up, you know, they're only a mile away or so away. So it was no problem. We had, on our Jeep, before we went in action, we had racks welded on our Jeeps. We carried ammo, food, and gas. Every Jeep had a rack. In fact, we had to weld them.
Oh.
We
so this was
I never welded before, and we did that in England.
This was this a field modification or?
Well, yeah, field. Okay. Yeah, they decided we carry our own food and gas and ammo, you know, rations. And
you run into German armor very often?
Yeah, we saw them from a distance. And we avoid, then we'd call back. See, we were going to, and we'd spot all this stuff. Anything we couldn't harass or take on, if we did harass them, we'd avoid them, you know. In fact, we'd what's called harassing fire to find out how strong an outfit was. We'd shoot them up. By the time they recovered, we weren't there. We were fast-moving, hard-hitting shock troops. They called us Patton's ghost troops.
What? So your equipment you thought was pretty good?
Very good. I never had a gun that failed, or a grenade, or anything that failed. Everything was wonderful. I never had a bad shell.
What did you think of the German equipment?
Very good. I think we learned from the Germans, because they've been at it for years, and I think according to the books, we learned a lot from the German military.
What were you most respectful of the Germans?
The 88 tank, the 88 gun.
How were the machine guns?
The machine guns were fast. Fast firing, ours would, you know, be a sequence, but theirs was double fast. Like ours would bang, bang, bang. Theirs would you know, real. But our barrels didn't burn out. We had air cooled barrels with the holes. The Marines had water cooled. We never had to change barrel, but the Germans had to change them. They'd be smoking. They fired fast, but they had a quick change, but they had to change their barrel. We never had to change a barrel.
What were most of the German troops like that you ran up against?
The what?
The German soldiers that you ran up against.
They were just average. They were good fighters. So, and the average guy was, you know, just an average guy. We never shot a guy with his hands up or anything. But the officers, they were, what do you call it? Brought up from kids probably, and they were so
arrogant.
Arrogant, yeah, and they were very. What do you call that word? By being caught from us, because they didn't think much of our intelligence, you know. They thought they were supermen, but our bullets went through them like jellies, same as ours. You know.
What did you think of Patton?
He was great. They didn't care for him in Africa because it was like a sacrifice play. In Africa, the Germans had a bigger army, and they were well established there, and the desert fox was Rommel. He was a smart general. What happened was Patton he was like a poker player, you know, bluffer. In Africa, this is the way I heard it. In order to fool the Germans, to think he had a big outfit, bigger than what was there, he had trucks and all equipment driving a big circle and a lot of dust, you know. And the Germans, looking through binoculars, thought, oh my God, he's got bigger, you know, he had him driving a big circle. But at the same time, the Germans were laying artillery shells. That's why the expression came, Patton's guts in our blood, from Africa. But in France, he was good. He said, don't give him a rest. He said, when you see a disabled tank, you roll right over and kill the SOBs. That's the way he was.
Did you ever see Patton?
Yeah.
Where'd you see him?
We saw him in our progress along the roads. He'd be on the high ground, you know, like the road is, there's a ditch, and first time we saw him, we saw this guy waving, you know, waving us on. And we said, who the hell's a cowboy? And he had twin. But then when he got closer, we realized that was Patton before you know it. And he's waving us on. He loved us because he was formerly a cavalryman in his days. He liked cavalry and tank. And he was waving it. That was the first time.
Now, when the Third Army broke out, it was moving quite quickly.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
It was great.
You always know where you were?
When they said the Army was moving, had made progress 30 miles, that was us, 3rd Cavalry. We were going along. We didn't have much opposition because the Germans were on the run. And what wasn't on the run, we overcame them. And that was us. He wanted us to keep moving. He liked that. He said, no army will win by sitting.
Did you always know where you were?
Yes, we did. Because we're on the roads, you know. Only night patrol was different, you know. But we knew where we were all the time. And we knew where we had to go and what our objective was. Yeah. was for,
And how is your squad?
very good. Well trained. We all respected each. It was like family. When you train together and live together, you know, there's no. The only time we got new people, new soldiers, when someone got killed or wounded, then we get replacement. That's why it hurt so much when a guy got killed or wounded. It's like family.
How were the replacements treated?
Very good. In fact, the kid that got hurt with me, John Hawkins, he was a replacement. He was from Texas, I think, and he was good. I was trained to teach them. Naturally, you get new guys, and
Sure.
they're scared, you know.
Your officers pretty good?
Our officers were very good. All our officers were good. Like I said, we trained together. We respected them, and they respected us. They were very good. Couldn't ask for better.
Now, you got back to the States after you were wounded?
Yes,
And how was your medical treatment?
very good. Yeah.
When were you discharged?
Was discharged in May 45.
May 45. How would you summarize your military experience?
Was the greatest experience of my life. Was, you know, regardless of all the, you know, torn flesh and broken bones, and I still have.
Okay.
I'm in group therapy with all veterans at the Vet Center on Mount Hope Avenue now, and with all veterans of all wars. It don't make a difference which war you're in. Bullets and mines and everything's the same. The scenery is different.
Well, let's get some of your pictures here on tape.
You want to explain who they are?
This group, is this your squad?
Yeah, that's part of my squad.
Let's see, let's move
That's me on the end.
let's pull a chair up here and,
Okay.
all right, have a seat.
I still have a piece of strap on this leg.
Oh, really?
Okay, let me zoom in on that picture.
Okay.
Now, whereabouts are you?
I'm on the end here.
Okay.
Huh?
Yep.
Okay, and
That's
is this you in the M8?
Yep. Let me see. There's another guy. The guy that took my picture and I took his. Oh, that's me?
There you go. There you are in the M8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me and a friend from Syracuse. In Augusta, Georgia, after training, we were on weekend, or, you know.
You're on the right?
Yes, I'm on the right.
This is in Augusta, Georgia.
It's like a rest area time.
Okay,
We were about to go to.
Okay, there you are in the M8. And
Yeah, that's me back there with the arrow. Yeah, that's after firing the cannon that day on the firing range. That's in Augusta, Georgia.
okay.
Okay, that's me right there. Cecil. See, I got the names there.
Okay. To the right of the fellow playing the guitar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
Mhm. Believe it or not, you know what that is? That's a remote controlled airplane about 6 or 8 feet long.
Let's see.
And that's me with, we take turns holding the shells and you shoot at that airplane.
Okay.
The airplane's here and you aim in there by the time it gets there.
Right.
That was that train.
Okay.
That's on the 50 caliber range. That was the ammo building there.
Uh-huh.
Okay, got it.
Let's see.
And, yeah, that's me on the left.
Left.
Yeah, and The guy in the middle, I went to school with at Madison High School. And
Okay.
the other guy's from Buffalo.
Okay.
Another armored car.
That's me. That's a picture that's in the Cavalry Museum in Fort
Okay.
Carson.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
My outfit
Nice
is
shot.
still active in Fort Carson,
Oh, really?
and we've been there for a reunion last year and the year before.
Okay.
And they're the ones that gave us this hat.
I think that's about it.
Okay. Nice hat.
Colonel Baggett of Fort Carson, now he's advances Washington, and Colonel Harrington is a new colonel of the 3rd